And if you looked, for example, at the Neanderthals, who again didn't make it, and for a Neanderthal to survive on meat alone, they would have had to kill 2 or 3 very large elk every week, and they didn't have the ability to do that. They were close range hunters and fighters. So scientists said they don't have weapons. Modern day hunter-gatherers with the biggest brains in history only managed to actually pull off 3 to 5% of their hunts. So what were they doing? So they checked their dental, and the dental proved that what they were doing was collecting grasses and the seeds from there and actually creating porridge and cooking it.
Great Spirit, I have had it. Bring me back to the nomadic way of weaving through the damage. Mindful, stay mindful. Great Spirit.
I was just about to go, but I was thinking to myself, it's so cold, I'm happy to go home and have something warm to eat. And this got me thinking about the fact that I used to be a raw foodist. I used to be a fruitarian. Even here in this freezing cold corner of the planet, I thought that raw food was the optimal diet for humans. And many of my friends still do. And it's definitely one of the most healthy ways to eat on the planet. But I thought I'd tell you why I came to realize that it's not actually the best thing, because it's not natural. We're eating from a collective food source first and foremost. Here in England, there is very few fruits available to people if you just eat local fruit. You have apples sometimes in the year. That's about it. Now, of course, we are tropical descendants. Our lineage comes from Africa, comes from my new second home. And this is a huge discussion for people because it leads into a lot of things about what are humans best designed to do. As you know, I'm a vegan, and I say we are adapted better to eat plants than anything else. I don't say we're not adapted for the ability to consume some meat, because our bodies can do it. I would be denying science if I said that. But I just say that we are best adapted and genetically and evolutionarily adapted to eat plants. Now, here's the thing. What I came to realize on that journey, and why, first of all, I'm not saying you shouldn't eat raw vegan. It's a wonderful diet it's a wonderful lifestyle to raise your vibration. But it's not a natural lifestyle to your evolution. Humans are the only animal who have eaten cooked food. And we prefer cooked food. All animals, when given cooked foods actually in a laboratory experiments, choose the cooked over their raw. Now, our ancient ancestors, if you look, we differ from other primates. The difference being there was a time where you can look back and we discovered fire, and this is what I came to realize when I ended my journey of being a raw vegan. And I still use raw for healing, but never as a permanent thing, because I don't find it natural. I don't find it natural to eat from a food source. When I lived and moved to the tropics, I thought I'd be raw, and again, it can't be done. You can't store the food without a fridge. When you do try to buy it in bulk so you have enough, you attract lots of different insects, and your house fills up with insects, and then the things that want to eat the insects, and it's not safe. It just doesn't work that way. And actually, if you check, I know they spoke with the pygmies in the Congo, a place where I've been. And the Virunga Mountains in the Congo is a very prehistoric way of life in there with the pygmies. They asked them, in times of famine, can you survive on the same foods as the chimpanzees? And they said, no chance. There's not enough calories in the food that they eat, and we can't get through it enough. We can't get through enough of it. So even those who live in the most indigenous lives in the forests, they say they can't do it. So what were we doing? Well, once over, yes, we were eating stuff like that. But our ancestors all had very huge teeth. Very huge flat teeth. And I'm talking hominid. Our ancestry of persons, not recent history, shall we say, but millions of years ago, the different hominid species that didn't make it, whereas we Homo sapiens did. And for those of you who are creationists, I am not going to get into that. I don't ignore science. Science is science and facts are facts. God did create the world without a shadow of a doubt, but he created the opportunity for life to find a way. He created those laws, and that's the important thing. So if you look at them all, they all had really large teeth, and they could chew on stuff that we wouldn't chew on, pulp and stuff like this, and much more dry vegetation than what we could eat. Then there was all of a sudden this change, and our teeth got smaller. Our chest cavity got bigger and our stomachs got smaller. And the reason this happened is because we discovered fire and we began to cook things. Now this is where the problems came in with history and people believing in things, silly things ultimately, that don't match up to science, which have been, it doesn't work. Like for instance, the Paleo idea that humans lived on meat alone. And if you looked, for example, at the Neanderthals, who again didn't make it, and for a Neanderthal to survive on meat alone, they would have had to kill 2 or 3 very large elk every week, and they didn't have the ability to do that. They were close range hunters and fighters. So scientists said they don't have weapons. Modern day hunter-gatherers with the biggest brains in history only managed to actually pull off 3 to 5% of their hunts. So what were they doing? So they checked their dental, and the dental proved that what they were doing was collecting grasses and the seeds from there and actually creating porridge and cooking it. Now they're trying to work out how they cooked it. But then they started realizing that the shrinking of our teeth and the shrinking of our stomach and enlargement of our chest cavity was because we needed less space to digest, because we moved away from raw food. We moved towards pre-digested food, cooked ultimately. Cooked and processed foods with tools are giving us more energy. They don't give you as many vitamins, but for our ancestry, calories is what they were seeking. Calories were important. Even a small amount of calorie difference can be the difference between a species surviving. I read a paper that said saving as few calories as a packet of chocolate biscuits a year by becoming an upright walking being was enough to ensure the birth of 1 extra child in the lifetime of a female ancestor of ours. Which is amazing, because they conceive faster because of that that few less calories being used. This day and age we don't think of it, but I began to realize that the whole thing revolved around fire. Our teeth are smaller because the food we have is more processed because we've cooked it. And because we can cook, we gained access to something that no other animal had: starch. We could dig it up, we could migrate, we could go where we wanted with it. We could store it easy, we always had food source and abundant calories found at the base with flags. Ultimately, you see a plant, you know the plant's got a huge tuber underneath, you dig it up and you've got a huge amount of calories. Grass everywhere with seeds that you can turn into porridges. Everywhere you turn that other animals can't take advantage of like you can. And of course the glucose is the reason the brain began to grow. They did eat meat, don't get me wrong. They did eat meat. But we are cooked food creatures. Our anatomy, our genetics show it. Fire changed us. And that's why I stopped being raw. Now raw has more vitamins in it, and I still eat a lot of raw foods. But I also know the importance of sticking with what my millions of years of evolution have evolved to do. And that is consume the most easy to digest foods, which come predominantly from cooked foods. And those come in the form of starches. That is the optimal diet for human beings. That's why we have the ability to digest starch in our saliva, whereas most do not. We are starchivores, ultimately. Yes, we can eat meat, but there's no way you would have survived saying you're only eating meat on this planet, or your ancestors would have. They were eating predominantly plants. That's why your body is more adapted to eat plants than that of eating meat. And that's proved by looking at people like the Hadza, who can't succeed as persistence hunters more than 3 to 5% of the time. So where did you get your energy to run and run and run every day to only succeed 3 or 5% of the time in 1 month? If you were to succeed for 3 or 5% of the time, you wouldn't get enough calories to run every day. But if you're digging up starch every day, it's easy going. So that's why I'm not a raw foodist, and that's why I, for all, know the benefits spiritually of eating a raw food diet and how it lightens your body, and I don't condemn it or anything. That's why I stopped. I couldn't do it in the tropics. I didn't want to eat from a food source all the time, and I wanted to eat from local produce wherever I went, but I wanted to eat the local plants that my ancestors had evolved to eat. Right now I'm eating a lot of squash and things like that because it's in season here. When I'm in Tanzania, I can eat cassavas, I can eat yams, and I can eat banana from the tree. Most species of banana in Tanzania never turn ripe. You have to cook them if you want to eat them. That's their way of protecting themselves. Because the original bananas in Tanzania, if I ever get hold of one to show you again, they're all black seeds inside. You can't eat them. There's hardly any fruit inside. But those are original bananas that are wild. So yeah, it's a thing I've got a lot of interest in. I find it phenomenal. That's why we stand out so differently. We are, of course, more closer to a frugivore than anything else in nature. But we are different anatomically because we are a cooked food creature. We are a cooked foodivore. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying some warm starches on a cold morning, because it's what for millions of years your ancestors have done. That's what made us what we are today. That's why I'm not a raw foodie anymore permanently, but I do use it for times of healing, and I recommend that all people do. And as I say, you can eat meat if you cook it and so on and so forth, but in this day and age there's no necessity to do it. If you were going to do it like your ancestors, you probably should do it one time in the month, or if that, because that's the only time they were succeeding on their hunts. And right now, if you're getting it from factory farmed stuff, you're going to kill this beautiful planet for the sake of a habit you don't need to partake in, that tends to make us sick. So I can't see a necessity in that at all, to be perfectly honest. So, right, I'm going to get up to my home because it's very, very cold here, and I didn't expect to make that video, but it just came to mind. So I'm going to go get something warm to eat, and I thought, when I was fruitarian and I couldn't do that, and I kind of went against my natural want. When it's cold, you want something warm inside you. That's me personally. Each to their own. If you are okay with your oranges on a cold day, then that's fine as well. So, okay. Love you guys. See you soon. And hopefully I'll be able to start doing some more videos now that I'm coming back to life from my fast. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon. www.patreon.com/featherstail and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.